I often find myself questioning whether I truly embody the essence of an ideal husband. The demands of my job weigh heavily on me, and there are occasions when I return home carrying the burden of stress, inadvertently casting a shadow of irritability over our abode. While I may not boast the financial prowess of a millionaire, my wife and I navigate our finances adeptly, ensuring that we live comfortably. Our dwelling exudes warmth and comfort, complemented by the presence of two luxurious automobiles in our garage. My wife's wardrobe is a testament to elegance, brimming with meticulously curated attire, while our 8-year-old daughter, Jennifer, is the fortunate recipient of an array of opulent toys. At my core, I am a man of simplicity, driven by an unwavering love for my family. Linda and I have shared nearly 12 years of marital bliss characterized by moments of profound joy and harmony. However, the tranquility of our union has been marred by a disconcerting discord in recent months. Linda's demeanor has undergone a perplexing transformation, veering towards aloofness and unfounded criticism. Attempts to broach the subject are met with evasive reassurances, as she attributes her detachment to fatigue or the strains of daily life. Initially, I endeavored to afford her the space and time to navigate her inner turmoil, hopeful that clarity would eventually prevail. Yet, as her detachment persisted unabated, my patience waned, giving way to a growing sense of frustration. Beyond the palpable strain it has placed on our relationship, her demeanor has cast a pall over our intimacy. Despite my earnest efforts to infuse our love life with passion and spontaneity, my romantic overtures are met with tepid responses, as if viewed through a lens of suspicion, as if they were mere attempts to placate perceived grievances. As the weeks stretched into months, I found myself retreating into a state of emotional detachment, seeking solace in the comforting embrace of our daughter while navigating the turbulent waters of marital discord with cautious reserve. As my sense of desperation mounted, I found myself clinging to every fleeting moment of respite at work, using these precious intervals to meticulously analyze the intricate threads of recent events. I embarked on a soul-searching journey, retracing our shared experiences, desperately seeking any semblance of insight into Linda's inexplicable shift in demeanor. Yet, despite my exhaustive efforts, my mind remained a barren landscape, devoid of any discernible triggers or catalysts to explain her sudden detachment. An unsettling notion, as insidious as it was distressing, began to take root in the recesses of my consciousness. Could Linda be unfaithful? The mere suggestion of such a betrayal sent shockwaves through my being, challenging the very foundation of trust upon which our marriage stood. And yet, try as I might, I could not shake the persistent whisper of doubt that clung to my thoughts like a stubborn shadow, refusing to be ignored. Driven by an unrelenting thirst for answers, I delved into the labyrinthine depths of literature on infidelity, scouring every available resource in search of clues. With a keen eye and a heavy heart, I scrutinized Linda's every word and deed, hunting for any subtle nuances or telltale signs that might betray her hidden secrets. But despite my exhaustive efforts, I found no concrete evidence to substantiate my suspicions, leaving me stranded in a maelstrom of uncertainty and doubt. Undeterred by the absence of proof, I resolved to pursue more clandestine avenues of investigation, resorting to covert surveillance in a desperate bid to uncover the truth. Installing discreet monitoring devices, I meticulously monitored Linda's movements, scrutinizing every interaction and encounter for any hint of impropriety. Yet, as the days stretched into weeks, my surveillance efforts yielded no tangible results, leaving me adrift in a sea of unanswered questions and unspoken fears. With each passing day, the weight of suspicion grew heavier upon my shoulders, casting a dark shadow over the fragile remnants of our once happy marriage. As our 12th anniversary loomed ominously on the horizon, I found myself teetering on the brink of despair, grappling with the haunting realization that the idyllic facade of our union may have been irreparably shattered. Viewing it as an opportunity to inject some much-needed excitement into our relationship, we decided to indulge in a long-overdue night of dinner and dancing. It had been ages since we'd had the chance to enjoy such a romantic outing, and I was hopeful that it might help reignite the spark in our marriage. After arranging for Jennifer to stay at my parents' house for the evening, I made reservations at Plato's, one of Linda's favorite restaurants. As we were escorted to our table, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation, hoping that this night would mark a return to the blissful days of our early marriage. However, my hopes were tempered by the sight of Linda, who seemed a bit tense and distant despite my efforts to lighten the mood. Ordering a bottle of wine with dinner seemed to help ease her nerves, and soon enough, she began to relax, her laughter becoming more genuine as the evening progressed. After dinner, it was clear that Linda was eager to hit the dance floor. Although I suggested trying out a new club that had recently opened, she managed to persuade me to go to our usual spot, a cozy venue with romantic lighting and a dance floor that catered to an older crowd. As we danced together, lost in the music and each other's company, it felt like a glimpse into the early days of our relationship, when everything seemed so effortless and carefree. However, as we took a break and returned to our table, my sense of unease returned when I noticed a handsome man sitting alone at a corner table, his eyes fixed intently on Linda's every move. Despite my attempts to ignore him, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. When Linda excused herself to the restroom, I couldn't help but watch the man closely, feeling a knot form in the pit of my stomach. My suspicions only grew when I saw Linda exchange glances with the man as she passed by him. Although I tried to rationalize it away, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something going on between them. When Linda returned and complained about her wine tasting stale, it only added to my growing sense of unease. "Would you mind getting me another glass of wine? This one doesn't taste quite right," she asked, her words sending a chill down my spine as I reluctantly got up to fulfill her request. I felt uneasy about leaving Linda alone at the table while I went to the bar to order our drinks. As I scanned the room, I noticed a bartender and signaled her over. Linda's expression seemed to shift, almost as if she was disappointed by my departure. Sensing a shift in the atmosphere, I couldn't shake the feeling that the evening was taking an unexpected turn. Glancing back, I noticed the man from the corner still sitting alone. Curiosity getting the best of me, I casually asked Linda about him, catching her off guard. There was a moment of hesitation in her response, hinting at something beneath the surface. Sensing her discomfort, I pressed further, inquiring about the supposed googly eyes incident from earlier. As our drinks arrived, I caught her eyes darting over my shoulder. To my surprise, the man approached our table without acknowledging me, asking Linda to dance. Without missing a beat, I intervened, firmly declining his offer. His response only fueled my frustration, as he seemed to disregard my presence entirely. Asserting my authority as her husband, I made it clear that I was the one who decided who she danced with. Amidst the tension, Linda chimed in, accusing me of rudeness. Undeterred, I pressed her about her acquaintance with the man, catching her off guard with my persistence. Her hesitant explanation only added to my frustration. I expressed my disappointment with the man's disrespectful behavior, refusing to entertain the idea of them dancing together. Turning back to Linda, I made it clear that if he had asked my permission first, perhaps the situation would have been different. I was initially open to the idea, but her response quickly shut down any possibility of agreement. Her tone carried a sharp edge, dismissing my concerns as trivial and asserting her independence. It was a level of defiance I hadn't encountered before, and it left me seething with anger, shattering any hopes of salvaging a romantic evening. Despite my rising fury, I struggled to maintain composure as she continued to speak. Her softened tone, expressing a desire for enjoyment, contrasted sharply with my simmering emotions. I reminded her of the significance of our anniversary and my longing to celebrate together. The thought of her dancing with another man, especially after I had expressly asked her not to, filled me with dread. While acknowledging her autonomy, I cautioned her about the potential repercussions of her actions. I could read Linda like a book, sensing her anger beneath the surface despite her attempts to mask it. Surprisingly, she seemed oblivious to my own mounting frustration. I pointed out the rudeness of subjecting the gentleman to our disagreement, but Linda remained defiant, insisting on dancing with him and suggesting we discuss it later. As he extended his hand with a smug grin, and Linda accepted, leading her to the dance floor, I felt a profound sense of betrayal. Disheartened and betrayed, I left before they even began dancing, their obliviousness to my departure a stark contrast to the turmoil raging within me. Several blocks away, my phone rang, Linda's contrite voice echoing through the receiver as she inquired about my whereabouts. I tersely informed her of my intention to leave, packing a bag in preparation to escape the suffocating atmosphere. Expressing disbelief at my decision, Linda emphasized that it was just a dance, an insignificant blip in our otherwise harmonious marriage. However, I clarified that it wasn't solely about the dance, but rather my deep-seated concerns about the state of our relationship. Voicing my suspicions of potential infidelity, particularly with the man she had just danced with, I highlighted the lack of respect he had shown, indicative of someone entangled with a married woman. In a softer tone, Linda denied any wrongdoing, professing her love and respect for me. Yet, the shadow of doubt lingered, casting a pall over our once unshakable bond. I confronted her, pointing out the lack of intimacy between us for over 2 weeks, her detachment during our interactions, and her recent irritability. I accused her of disrespecting me, highlighting her behavior that evening. There was silence on the other end until she finally apologized, acknowledging her actions and expressing remorse for her behavior. She denied any affair, admitting only to noticing the man and exchanging glances while dancing, insisting it meant nothing. She pleaded for me to come back and pick her up, but I stood firm, reiterating my decision to leave. I reminded her of my warning that if she danced with him, she would need to find her own way home. I informed her that I was already pulling into our driveway, intending to be gone by the time she arrived. I suggested that if she was indeed having an affair, perhaps she should go home with the other man and forget about me. Despite her desperation and assurances of fidelity, I refused to budge, sticking to my decision to leave. As she pleaded with me to stay put until she got home, her tone softened significantly, begging for understanding before abruptly hanging up. I wasted no time, pulling into our driveway, swiftly packing a bag, and leaving the house within 12 minutes. I wondered if she would truly take a cab home or if the man would drop her off. So I drove down the block, turned off my lights, and waited. About 15 minutes later, a yellow cab pulled into the driveway, and Linda hurriedly entered the house. Satisfied with what I saw, I drove off to a motel. Almost immediately, my phone began to ring again. I powered down the phone, its screen dimming as my mind raced with suspicions. Despite lacking concrete evidence of infidelity, a gnawing feeling persisted. There was something about Linda's demeanor, her interactions with that man at the club, that didn't sit right with me. Could they possibly know each other? The thought lingered as I contemplated the possibility of seeking professional help to uncover the truth. Perhaps a private investigator could shed light on the shadows creeping into our marriage. With a plan forming in my mind, I resolved to take action, even if it meant facing a reality I wasn't prepared for. The next day, I delved into the yellow pages, scouring through listings until I found a private investigator who seemed reputable. With determination fueling my steps, I made my way to their office, ready to enlist their services. After discussing the situation and providing a retainer, I left, feeling a strange mix of apprehension and determination coursing through my veins. Upon arriving at work, I was met with urgency from Tracy, my secretary, who insisted I call Linda immediately. She relayed Linda's persistent attempts to reach me, her tone betraying a sense of urgency. Despite the flood of calls, I hesitated, knowing that confronting Linda would only lead to more questions than answers. Instead, I instructed Tracy to inform Linda that I wasn't available to speak and to refrain from allowing her access to the office if she showed up. As the day progressed, I found myself grappling with conflicting emotions. When Andrea, our neighbor, called later in the afternoon, I reluctantly answered, anticipating a conversation about Linda. Andrea's voice was filled with concern as she described Linda's efforts to reconcile and my refusal to engage. Though she vehemently defended Linda, denying any wrongdoing, her words did little to ease my troubled mind. The doubts persisted, gnawing at the edges of my consciousness. Acknowledging Andrea's plea for communication, I assured her that I would consider reaching out to Linda in a couple of weeks. Despite her insistence that avoidance wouldn't solve anything, I couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty that clouded my judgment. With a heavy heart, I bid Andrea farewell, promising to heed her advice while silently questioning the validity of my suspicions. In the days that followed, I found myself consumed by thoughts of Linda and the uncertainty surrounding our relationship. The investigators' lack of updates only added to my growing sense of unease. However, when they finally called me back to their office, I felt a surge of anticipation mixed with trepidation. As I sat in their office, my hands trembling slightly, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread creeping over me. Yet, When the investigator handed me a manila packet, I knew that this was the moment of truth. With bated breath, I flipped through the pages until I reached the bottom of page 5, where the essential information awaited me. And there it was, staring back at me in black and white. After an exhaustive investigation, there was no evidence to support the suspicions of spousal infidelity. I sat there in disbelief, unsure of how to react. Glancing back up at the man across the desk, I found myself compelled to ask about the certainty of the investigator's findings. With a reassuring tone, he detailed the extensive measures taken to track Linda's every move over the past 2 weeks, from house surveillance to call monitoring, tailing her outings, and scrutinizing phone records and credit card statements. His words overwhelmed me with relief, and I struggled to contain my emotions. Thanking him profusely, I left his office with a newfound sense of hope. Returning to my motel room, I needed time to process everything. Over the weekend, I meticulously mulled over every detail. By Monday morning, I felt compelled to reach out to Linda. When she weakly answered the phone, sounding shaky and unwell, concern flooded over me. After identifying myself, I gently inquired about her well-being, expressing worry over her condition. In a moment of vulnerability, Linda apologized, admitting regret for taking me for granted. She acknowledged the validity of my concerns about the man at the club, tears streaming down her face as she confessed her lack of respect despite her love and admiration for me. Linda pleaded for another chance, promising never to repeat her mistake. Her plea caught me off guard, especially considering her demeanor at the club. When she sensed my hesitation, fear gripped her voice as she questioned whether I would return. Assuring her of my intentions, I explained that it would be on a trial basis, with the hope of rediscovering the woman I fell in love with. Despite her sincerity, I couldn't shake off the resentment built over the past 2 months, the bad attitudes, the lack of passion, and the disrespect. After a moment of contemplative silence, Linda poured out her love for me, expressing profound regret for her behavior and her fear of losing me. Though her words touched me, I couldn't ignore my lingering reservations. However, I made the decision to collect my belongings from the motel after work and return home that night. As I stepped through the door, Jennifer, our daughter, came running, enveloping me in a tight embrace, oblivious to the turmoil that had engulfed our family. With Linda by my side, showering me with affection, I couldn't help but hope for a brighter future ahead. Passion surged through me as I returned her kiss, a silent acknowledgement of the enduring love I held for my wife. Fast forward 2 years, and life with Mary had been a tapestry of joy and contentment. Linda had seamlessly transitioned back into the woman I fell deeply in love with, both in her demeanor and our intimate moments. It had been a couple of months since she surprised me with a birthday celebration, a deviation from our usual routine. Last night marked our 14th wedding anniversary, and Linda took charge, orchestrating a memorable evening from start to finish. As I arrived home from work, she greeted me with tickets to a dinner playhouse, selecting Man of La Mancha, a nod to my theatrical inclinations. We later wandered along the lakefront, the moon casting a gentle glow upon us as we reveled in each other's company. Expressing gratitude for the unforgettable anniversary, I drew her close, feeling the familiar strings of desire, a silent agreement passing between us. With mutual understanding, we decided to retreat to our sanctuary, a place where our love flourished uninhibited. In the dim light of our bedroom, our clothes became unnecessary adornments, discarded in haste as passion engulfed us. Yet, amidst the whirlwind of emotions, a shadow of doubt lingered. Uncertainty gnawed at me. Had Linda been unfaithful? It was a question destined to remain unanswered, veiled in the enigma of the past. Yet, despite the lingering doubts, I found solace in the decision to return home. Stepping outside into the crisp spring air, shedding the weight of winter, I welcomed the arrival of a new season. The scent of morning dew lingered, a reminder of renewal and fresh beginnings. As I made my way towards the car, a sense of tranquility enveloped me, a silent reassurance that, despite the uncertainties, home was where my heart belonged. I found myself mesmerized by the resilient blue wildflowers bravely emerging from the wintry landscape, their delicate petals a testament to nature's resilience and the eternal cycle of renewal. Each bloom seemed to whisper tales of hope and transformation, inspiring me as I embarked on my journey to meet Kathy, a cherished friend with whom I had shared countless memories. Entering the quaint coffee shop, I was greeted by the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the soft chatter of patrons. As I made my way to our usual spot, I spotted Kathy seated by the window, her warm smile beckoning me closer. We exchanged joyful greetings and shared embraces, relishing the familiarity of our reunion. Settling into our seats, we delved into conversation, effortlessly traversing the landscape of our lives and reminiscing about days gone by. Laughter filled the air as we recounted cherished memories and marveled at the passage of time. Amidst the warmth of friendship and the gentle hum of the cafe, Kathy leaned in, her voice tinged with a hint of secrecy. In a hushed tone, she confided in me, sharing her innermost thoughts and desires. With a mixture of curiosity and concern, I listened intently as she spoke of a man named Cody and the whirlwind of emotions he had stirred within her. Her words carried a sense of longing and uncertainty, echoing the complexities of human relationships. As Kathy bared her soul, I couldn't help but reflect on my own journey and the hidden truths I carried within. Weaving between shared confidences and silent contemplation, our conversation became a dance of vulnerability and understanding, strengthening the bond between us. In that moment, amidst the comforting embrace of friendship and the gentle rustle of conversation, I was reminded of the beauty found in shared experiences and the power of connection to illuminate even the darkest corners of our hearts. I opted for a bold move, prompting Kathy to cast her memory back to a couple of years prior when Harry and I faced rocky times. He had actually walked out on me for a while, a detail she vaguely recalled, unaware of the full extent. Confiding in her, I admitted to keeping it hush-hush, stressing the significance of her discretion. After a brief pause, Kathy assured me of her commitment to secrecy, understanding the potential impact on her own marriage. As the waitress topped up our cups with fresh coffee, I seized the moment to delve deeper. I confessed to feeling a sense of monotony after 12 years of marriage, everything falling into a predictable pattern. It was an odd sensation, given the passage of time, leaving me questioning my life's trajectory. I felt ensnared, drained of vitality. Kathy chimed in, empathizing with my sentiments. She acknowledged the commonality of such feelings among women, emphasizing that it wasn't about lacking love for our partners. She, too, had experienced a similar sense of emptiness despite her deep affection for Harry. Even his efforts to inject excitement into our intimate life couldn't dispel the darkness that had enveloped her. School events, once a source of joy, had become burdensome obligations. As I shared these thoughts over our steaming cups of coffee, I stole a glance at Kathy, seeking affirmation that she grasped the gravity of my words. In the intricate tapestry of human emotions, my journey unraveled with each word shared in the intimate conversation with Kathy. It was more than just recounting events. It was a voyage into the depths of my soul, where the currents of desire and obligation collided. As I bared my heart to Kathy, I peeled back the layers of pretense and facade that had obscured my true feelings. Each revelation was a thread woven into the fabric of our conversation, illuminating the tangled web of longing and uncertainty that had gripped my heart. With each confession, I felt a weight lifted from my shoulders, as if the act of sharing had granted me a moment of respite from the turmoil within. Kathy's empathetic presence provided a sanctuary where I could lay bare my deepest fears and desires without judgment or condemnation. Together, we navigated the murky waters of love and loyalty, probing the depths of my emotions with unwavering honesty. It was a journey of self-discovery, where every revelation brought me closer to understanding the tangled knots of my own heart. In Kathy's understanding gaze, I found solace, a beacon of light in the darkness of my doubts and insecurities. Her gentle encouragement urged me to confront the truths I had long avoided, to embrace the complexities of my feelings without reservation. As we delved deeper into the heart of the matter, I grappled with questions that had long haunted me. What did it mean to be faithful? Could love transcend the boundaries of commitment, or were they destined to clash in an eternal struggle for dominance? In exploring these questions, I unearthed truths that resonated far beyond my own experience. It was a journey of introspection, a quest to unravel the mysteries of the human heart and find peace amidst the chaos of conflicting emotions. Ultimately, as I laid bare my soul to Kathy, I realized that true liberation lay not in the answers we sought but in the courage to ask the questions that mattered most. And in that moment of vulnerability, I found a sense of clarity and purpose that had long eluded me. Despite my inner turmoil, I couldn't resist the allure of calling Terry, knowing deep down it was a mistake. The anticipation of our lunch meeting consumed me, mingling with a potent blend of fear and excitement. As I confided in Kathy during our coffee rendezvous, I revealed the tumultuous cocktail of emotions that Terry's advances had stirred within me. His seductive gestures, like reaching across the table to hold my hand, ignited a fierce arousal, evoking memories of youthful infatuation. Yet, amidst the tempest of desire, a nagging conscience or perhaps sheer terror held me back from fully succumbing to temptation. I wrestled with conflicting impulses, torn between the allure of forbidden passion and the weight of moral obligation. Kathy listened intently, empathizing with my struggles and sharing her own vulnerabilities in the face of similar advances. Terry's insidious words had insinuated doubt into Kathy's mind about her marriage, much like they had done to mine. Despite her initial protestations, a subtle uncertainty lingered beneath the surface, echoing my own doubts when Harry had left. As we delved deeper into our respective experiences, Kathy and I found solace in our shared vulnerabilities, recognizing the insidious power of seduction to cloud judgment and sow discord in even the most steadfast relationships. Through our candid conversation, we navigated the murky waters of desire and obligation, seeking clarity amidst the tangled web of emotions that threatened to engulf us. And as we parted ways, I couldn't shake the feeling that our shared confessions had forged a bond between us, uniting us in our shared struggle to reconcile passion with fidelity. As I delved deeper into the intricacies of my emotional journey, recounting the challenges I grappled with in my marriage, I could sense Kathy's keen interest in unraveling the complexities of my predicament. With each revelation, I painted a vivid picture of the inner turmoil that consumed me, laying bare the raw emotions and conflicting desires that underscored my tumultuous experiences. Encouraging Kathy to empathize with the gravity of my situation, I posed probing questions aimed at unraveling the moral quandaries at the heart of my narrative. It was a poignant reminder for both of us to confront the stark realities of infidelity and its far-reaching consequences, urging Kathy to reflect on the risks she faced in her own romantic entanglement. As I chronicled my encounters with Terry, each interaction served as a crucible of temptation, testing the limits of my fidelity and challenging the sanctity of my marriage. Despite my best efforts to resist his advances, Terry's relentless pursuit gradually eroded my defenses, leaving me vulnerable to the allure of forbidden desire. With each clandestine rendezvous, I found myself teetering on the edge of moral ambiguity, grappling with the guilt and shame that accompanied my transgressions. Yet, amidst the chaos of conflicting emotions, there lingered a tantalizing sense of liberation and intoxicating rush that whispered promises of fulfillment and ecstasy. As the tension between duty and desire reached a fever pitch, I stood at a crossroads, torn between the comfort of familiarity and the allure of the unknown. It was a precarious balancing act, fraught with uncertainty and fraught with risk, as I navigated the treacherous waters of infidelity with trembling hands and a heavy heart. In the dimly lit confines of the dance club, surrounded by pulsating rhythms and swirling emotions, I found myself ensnared in a dance of temptation, entangled in the web of passion and betrayal. With every step, I moved closer to the precipice, teetering on the brink of irrevocable choices that threatened to shatter the fragile facade of my carefully constructed reality. And yet, amidst the chaos and confusion, there lingered a glimmer of hope, a flickering ember of resilience that refused to be extinguished. For in the crucible of temptation, I discovered a newfound strength and unwavering resolve to confront the demons that lurked within and emerge unscathed from the crucible of temptation. I was utterly absorbed in my thoughts, barely registering the conclusion of one dance and the start of another, lost in the intoxicating rhythm of the music and the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me. As the last strains of the melody faded away, I gently declined Terry's invitation for another dance, my mind already fixated on returning to the comforting presence of my husband. Striding back to our table, a knot of apprehension tightened in my stomach as I realized Harry was nowhere to be found. Confronting him with a mixture of confusion and frustration, I demanded an explanation for his abrupt disappearance, only to be met with a feeble excuse about wanting to apologize. Returning to our table alone, I found Terry lingering, his presence a stark reminder of the tangled web of emotions I found myself ensnared in. As the evening wore on, with Harry still absent, Terry's lingering presence became increasingly uncomfortable, his casual demeanor masking an underlying tension that left me feeling exposed and vulnerable. Despite my protests and thinly veiled hints, Terry seemed intent on prolonging our interaction, ordering drinks and engaging in idle conversation. It wasn't until the waitress mentioned settling the tab that I learned of Harry's sudden departure, leaving me feeling disoriented and adrift in a sea of conflicting emotions. Recounting these events to Kathy, I couldn't help but feel a sense of despair wash over me, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on my shoulders like a heavy burden. In the aftermath of Harry's departure, I reached out to him in a desperate attempt to salvage our fractured relationship, only to be met with accusations and suspicion. His abrupt decision to leave left me reeling, grappling with the harsh reality of our strained marriage and the consequences of my own actions. As I struggled to make sense of it all, Kathy's probing questions about Terry's role in the unfolding drama only served to deepen my sense of unease, stirring up a whirlwind of conflicting emotions that threatened to overwhelm me. In that moment, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that things were far from over, and that the worst was yet to come. I delved further into the emotional turmoil I experienced during those agonizing 2 weeks of uncertainty. Each day felt like a battle against the fear of losing the life I had built with Harry, the man I loved. Even in the presence of our daughter Jennifer, I struggled to maintain a facade of normalcy, hiding the turmoil churning within me. The nights were the hardest. Alone in the darkness, my mind raced with a million questions, doubts, and fears. What if Harry never came back? What if he believed the worst about me? The weight of those uncertainties pressed down on me like a heavy blanket, suffocating any semblance of peace. I vividly recalled the countless times I reached for my phone, only to stop myself before dialing Harry's number. What would I even say if he answered? How could I convince him of my innocence when doubts gnawed at my own heart? Each unanswered call reinforced the gnawing sense of dread that threatened to consume me. Despite the turmoil raging inside me, I knew I had to keep it together for Jennifer's sake. She was my anchor, my reason to put on a brave face even when every fiber of my being screamed in anguish. But behind closed doors, the tears flowed freely, silent witnesses to the depth of my despair. As I shared these raw and vulnerable moments with Kathy, I felt a sense of catharsis wash over me. It was liberating to finally voice the pain and uncertainty that had been eating away at me for weeks. And in Kathy's empathetic gaze, I found solace, a reminder that I wasn't alone in my struggles. Through it all, I clung to the hope that Harry would return, that we could weather this storm together and emerge stronger on the other side. But even as I held on to that hope, a part of me couldn't shake the nagging fear that I had already lost him, that our once solid foundation had been irreparably shaken. She wouldn't know how to handle her husband leaving. When asked if I ever told Harry the truth, I explained that I couldn't risk it given the closeness of losing him. Living in constant fear of him discovering the truth, I emphasized how I've tried to be the best wife since the day he came home, no longer taking him or our marriage for granted. I expressed gratitude daily and showed Harry my appreciation with passionate sincerity. Despite the lingering fear, I could only hope that my efforts would be enough if he ever discovered the truth. Kathy reassured me with a comforting squeeze of the hand, expressing gratitude for sharing my story and averting a potential mistake. Grateful for the conversation, we discussed tentative plans for our next meeting before parting ways. Upon arriving home, I had ample time to welcome my daughter Jennifer with a kiss and an after-school snack. Reflecting on how quickly she was growing up, I marveled at the passage of time, realizing she would soon be 10 years old. Time flies, I thought to myself. When Harry returned from work, I greeted him warmly with hugs and kisses. It struck me that I had never opened up about that painful period in our marriage until that day. Conversing with Kathy served as a reminder of the wonderful life Harry and I had built together. Later that night, Harry lay beside me, peacefully asleep. I turned on my side, propping myself up on my elbow, and traced the lines on his face, each one telling a story of the years we'd shared. With a delicate touch, I followed the faint outline of a few, my heart swelling with love and admiration for the man lying next to me. Leaning down, I pressed my lips to his, and to my delight, his smile met mine. He pulled me into a passionate kiss, his arms wrapping around me. Whispering, I expressed my surprise, thinking he was asleep. Harry chuckled, revealing he had been deep in thought about Jennifer's upcoming birthday. When I suggested a baby brother or sister for her, It wasn't entirely unexpected. We had discussed it before without reaching a decision. His smile seemed to signal an end to that debate. With Jennifer's birthday just 2 months away, I playfully hinted at getting started. Harry's broad smile indicated he was on board. 2 months later, we celebrated Jennifer's 10th birthday with a big backyard party, inviting all her friends and ensuring plenty of ice cream and cake for everyone. After the festivities, we surprised our daughter with an additional lavish gift, the news of a new baby brother joining our family.